You should be all set, Senator Ward.
Thank you. Good morning and welcome to the Senate Education Executive Session. Before we start, I'll have to read through the 91A script. Today, we will be holding a meeting in the Senate Education Committee and we'll be execing bills. Before we get started, I'll read through a checklist to ensure that the meeting that we are holding is in compliance with the right to know law. As chair of the Education Committee, I find that due to the state of emergency declared by the governor as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, and in accordance with the governor's emergency order number 12, pursuant to Executive Order 2020-04 and its extensions, this public body is authorized to meet electronically. Please note that there is no physical location to observe and listen contemporaneously to this meeting, which was authorized pursuant to the governor's emergency order. In accordance with the emergency order, I am confirming that we are providing public access to the meeting by telephone with additional access possibly by video and other electronic means. We are utilizing Zoom for this electronic meeting. All members of the committee and selected legislative staff have the ability to communicate contemporaneously in this meeting through this platform. And the public has access to contemporaneously watch and or listen to the meeting on Zoom or YouTube and via phone by following the directions and links provided on the General Court website. We have provided public notice of the necessary information for accessing the meeting in the Senate calendar. We are providing a mechanism for the public to alert the public body during the meeting if there are problems with access. If anyone has a problem, please email remotesenate@leg.state.nh.us or call 603-271-6931. In the event the public is unable to access the meeting will be adjourned and rescheduled. Please note that all votes taken during this meeting shall be done by roll call vote. Finally, let's start the meeting by taking a roll call attendance. When each member states their presence, please also state where they are and if anyone else is in the room with you during this meeting, which is required under the right to know law. I will call the roll. Senator Hennessy.
Good morning, Erin Hennessy. I am in the State House in Concord and no one is in the room with me.
Senator Ricciardi.
Good morning, Denise Ricciardi, and I'm in our home in Bedford alone.
Senator Khan.
Good morning, Jay Khan. I'm in Keene at home, no one else in the house.
Senator Prentice.
Senator Prentice, I'm at home in West Lebanon, New Hampshire. My husband is in the house with me, but not in the same room. Thank you.
And me, Senator Ward, I am in the house. My husband is in the house, but not in the room with me. Thank you all for coming and for the public who may be in attendance. So let's get started. Let's take up, unless somebody has a preference, I'll start with Senate Bill 50.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
I move into executive session.
Oh, good point. I thought that was already done. I move to executive session.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Khan. Senator Hennessy.
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi.
Yes.
Senator Khan.
Yes.
Senator Prentice.
Yes.
And Senator Ward, yes. Anybody wants to say something about 50?
Yes,
Senator Ward.
Okay, Senator Khan, did you want to start?
well, I would like to introduce Amendment 525.
Is that the rewrite by Steve Appleby?
It is indeed.
Okay. Let me find it.
And yes, Madam Chair, so I guess that's a little out of order. I should have moved, I would move ought to pass on Senate Bill 50. And then
Okay.
I'll introduce the amendment.
Let's take up the amendment. As far as I can tell, the amendment was essentially changing the words that as Mr. Appleby wanted, sort of clean up the language.
That's correct. He wanted to make sure that certificate was turned to license. So he took those steps through there.
And he changed teacher to educator,
Yes,
right?
because yes.
Did you have something to add? You said because,
I think I need to have a motion on the floor in order to introduce the amendment. So I would move ought to pass on Senate Bill 50.
And then Senator Prentice looks like she's seconding it.
Yes,
Super. So then we're in that discussion phase. Perfect.
thank you, everyone. Good.
And now I'd like to introduce the
amendment,
525.
okay? Why don't you do that? You may speak to the amendment.
Yes. So the the underlying bill is trying to have a criteria-based as opposed to a timeline-based means of awarding the renomination right to teachers. Right now, it's a flat 5 years. There's no credentialing associated with it. This underlying bill allows for that renomination step to occur at the point that the teacher receives an experienced educator credential. An experienced educator credential is part of education rules, and it requires that a teacher receive 2 consecutive years of good or better evaluations from their supervisor. So that's the underlying, and then we received the testimony from the Department of Education indicating that they are looking at their licensing, their certification, turning certification into licensing so that it parallels the language of other licensures in the state. And he then also went on to add educator and substitute that word where we had teachers. So I think we've addressed the primary issues that were raised by the department. And I think when you go to the last paragraph, it pretty well sums up.
The last paragraph of the amendment.
Of the amendment, it sums up what the intent here is. And you heard from the NEA New Hampshire, they support the bill. They because it does add not just time, but it adds a qualification to this renomination process.
We also have letters saying that this is really not necessary. No teacher has been shown to be harmed by the bill that was in the old, under the old statute. There is really nothing that has changed. So I didn't see any teachers at the hearing. The only people who showed up were the school board and the school administrators, and neither one of them sees any need for the bill. Because
Madam
it's
Chair.
really, yes.
I'm sorry. So Senator Hennessy had her hand raised and Senator Prentice has her hand raised. So I just want to make sure you saw both of those.
Okay, Senator Rishardi?
No.
Or Hennessy, Senator Hennessy. There you are, okay.
Oh, thank you. No, I can wait until you're done with your discussion if you like.
No, I just didn't see any strong support for this particular bill. That's what I'm saying. No harm had been shown. There was nothing was going to change, and they have not received any complaints about anything being unduly hardship for the teachers. So I'm just curious why we even need to look at this bill.
So,
Senator Hennessy.
Madam Chair, thank you. I agree with your comments, and I just add that I will be supporting the amendment in case my fellow senators disagree with my opinion that it's unneeded, because I think it does clean up, but the overlying bill as amended, I will not be supporting because we did hear from the school boards and the school administrators that although a new teacher may be given a good evaluation, there may be improvements that are in there. And if those improvements are not made within a certain timeline, say in year 3 or year 4, at that point, they may recognize that teacher is not someone who is going to be good for the students long-term. So I think that the speeding up to 2 years in this bill doesn't allow for appropriate assessment. And to just echo your point, we did not hear from any teachers that were harmed in any way by the current statute. So I will be voting against the underlying bill.
Thank you, Senator Hennessy. Senator Prentice? You're muted.
Okay, I'm unmuted now. Thank you very much,
Okay.
Senator Ward. And I appreciate Senator Hennessy's comments. 2 things. One, I want to ask Senator Khan, this bill has some history that goes back beyond this session. So I think it would be appropriate briefly to lay out how we got to this point. And then I want to speak to the teachers. I want to speak to the teachers as well. So is that okay, Senator Ward, that
Yes,
Senator Khan will
Senator Khan?
bring us here? Yep.
Yes, thank you. Yes, I think the legislature has moved back and forth on the timeline issue without addressing the qualifications of the teachers. So it had been 3 years in a more politically balanced to another side. It became 5 years. And since it's become 5 years, there's been bills introduced at 3 years. And so when we were together 2 years ago and this bill came up through the House at 3 years, Senator Ward may remember I said, can't we get the parties in the room and work this out, because just basing this on the amount of time doesn't make any sense. And so that's what happened. Then the school boards got together through Mr. Christina and the Teachers Association through Ms. Tuttle, and they produced essentially this amendment. This bill. So this bill is reintroduced in this session. It previously was vetoed by the governor after having passed the legislature. And in talking with the governor's staff about it, what happened from his perspective was that the analysis of the bill never changed. The analysis of the bill said it's a 3-year certification or renomination of teachers. It's not. This is actually a 4-year. It happens in the 4th year of a teacher and not in the 2nd year. So it happens in the 4th year because you've got to pass 3 years. You can't apply for an experienced educator credential until having completed 3 years of teaching. And during those 3 years of teaching, you must have had 2 years of good or better performance. And then you can apply for the experienced teacher credential, and you would receive that in your 4th year, which it would affect the renomination status in the 4th year. And if I can address then relative to any harm, I mean, this happens every year. Teachers are non-renewed every year. It's just a matter of whether they get a hearing in front of the board. And this is saying, hey, those who are valued teachers, we're going to give you a little bit of credential. We're going to recognize your experienced educator credential, and we're going to recognize that in how we treat you for renomination. And this is not that groundbreaking, except that it adds a quality perspective to a timeline. And who knows, it may be that a 6th-year teacher who's going for their 2nd renewal is still going to be a beginning teacher, because that's the credential that all teachers enter with. And until you get those 2 consecutive years of good evaluations, you're going to be a beginning teacher, into your 6th year and into your 9th year. All right, that's what I got.
Thank you. Senator Prentice?
Follow-up. Thank you very much, Senator Ward, for giving me the time with Senator Khan to remind us, because historically for me, I wanted to be clear on exactly how we got here. And I did want to point out respectfully that, I mean, Megan Tuttle did come and speak at our last hearing, and she represents, I think it's somewhat of 12,000 teachers. And what we all know right now is that teachers are in school. They can't always come to our hearings, and their roles as educators has changed and become more complicated. So I think, relying on, a leader or a leader of the teachers who's come forward to speak on this in favor of it has been meaningful to me. So I just wanted to point that out. And I thank you, Senator Ward and Senator Khan, for your time.
Thank you. Anybody else has the questions? Senator Hennessy.
Just one question for Senator Khan. You had said that this was a collaborative effort, including this. I can't remember if you said school boards or school administrators. So I'm just wondering why that they came out and spoke against it if they had agreed to it.
So it was.
Yeah, go ahead.
We've received a letter from Carl Ladd.
Yes.
Okay.
Carl didn't. It wasn't the administrators. It was the School Board Association who had worked with Ms. Tuttle. So,
okay.
And so we did get testimony from during
Dr. Carl Ladd. He says there's lack of data to suggest that a change is necessary, and it further limits the management's right to oversee their employees. No clear evidence submitted that teachers have been harmed by the current status of this law. And the other one, the legitimate concerns regarding the limiting of management's rights to supervise their employees.
So
Yes, Senator Prentice.
thank you, Senator Ward. So Dr. Ladd is with the school administrators. And
Yes.
the new one, and Barra Christina is with the School Boards Association. And so as a school board association and Megan Tuttle, President Tuttle, that worked on this.
That's right.
Okay. I wonder whether there's a difference. Okay.
Christina is an attorney, and I think he offered to act as a school representative to that negotiation.
Okay. Senator Hennessy.
Yeah, I just want to point out the School Board Association signed in and opposed to the bill.
Right.
Rebecca Wilson. So I won't.
Madam Chair, Senator Ricciardi has her hand raised.
Senator Ricciardi.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I was going to just mention what Senator Hennessy had said, and that because I feel that the school administrators and boards are not agreeing on this. I think we need to leave it up to the schools themselves. So I'm not in favor of this.
Okay. Thank you. Are we ready to vote on the amendment? Let's take a roll call. Senator Shardy,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Prentice. You're muted. You're muted.
I'm having a muting morning. Yes, I'll be better.
Senator Khan
Yes.
and Senator Ward, yes. Says 5-0 for the amendment. Now we have to go back to the underlying bill.
And then it's OTP ought to pass as amended.
That's what Senator Khan said.
If there's anything I can add, it's, sometimes you're not going to get unanimous consent.
That's
And,
true.
And you do the right thing. And I think this is the right thing.
Okay,
We need to provide incentives for teachers. Say that we're going to recognize you, not just for the length of time that you serve, but for the quality of service that you perform.
mhm.
I think this is a smart move, and I wish this would receive our support. Thank you.
Okay, so we have an OTP with amendment. I'll
We
take a roll call.
Madam Chair, do we have a motion for that?
The Senator Khan voted,
Okay,
said
perfect.
OTP with amendment.
And I
And we have
second,
a second, Senator Prentice. Okay, so this is to the underlying bill with the amendment. And Senator Khan is suggesting voting OTP with amendment. So Senator Rishardi, do you vote yes or no?
No.
Senator Hennessy,
No.
Senator Ward? No. Senator Prentice,
yes.
Senator Khan.
Yes.
So we have 2, 2, 3 on OTP. Do we have another amendment?
No other amendment.
Or is that sufficient?
I
think
move ITL, Madam Chair.
Is that on 0532?
What was that? 0532?
So the amendment was 0525S.
Right, we-
The amendment passed,
Yep.
and then the ought to pass as amended motion failed.
Right.
So
That's right.
Senator Hennessy just motioned ITL.
Right. So we're talking about the underlying bill and ITL under underlying bill. So Senator Rishardi, put ITL on the bill?
Yes.
Oops, Senator Prentice, you have a question?
Just procedurally, didn't we? Please forgive me as I'm still new to this. Didn't we just act on the underlying bill? We acted on the amendment and the underlying bill. Am I missing something?
need to have an affirmative vote.
Okay, thank you. All right.
So the motion failed. The ought to pass as amended motion failed. So now we're just back at the underlying bill.
Thank
So
you.
then, okay, perfect.
So
Is it back to the, I'm sorry, is it back to the underlying bill? or
underlying bill, yes,
Not with.
with amendment.
Okay.
Right, it was
straight
2,
up
3.
bill.
Yes,
So now we have a motion on the floor to ITL the bill.
by Senator
As
Hennessy.
amended though, right?
Amended, yes.
Okay.
So
Is that right, Ava?
Senator Rish-
So the amendment, I'm sorry, let's rewind a little bit. So the amendment passed, and then it was ought to pass as amended. The ought to pass as amended motion did not pass. So now we're back at a motion on the underlying bill. The amendment is no longer in question.
Okay, so on the underlying bill, okay. So I have a motion on the floor to ITL the bill. Senator Rishardi,
We just need a second. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. So Senator Hennessy and then we need a second.
okay, I'll second that.
Perfect.
Did you second it already, Hennessy?
That's perfect. So now we can vote. You seconded
Okay,
it.
okay. So Senator Ashardi,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
No,
Senator Khan,
No,
Senator Ward. Yes, so that's 3-2 for the ITL. And do we need somebody to take it out on the floor?
What calendar would we like? Regular or consent?
Regular.
Regular, okay.
You can't put it on the consent calendar with a 3-2.
That was a silly question, so yes. And then who would like to take that out?
Senator Ashardi, do you want to take it out?
Okay.
Ava will write a nice, concise thing for you to say on the floor. Okay? You get that, Ava?
Yes, thank you, Senator.
Now, are you ready for 145?
Madam Chair, I move re-refer on SB 145.
I will second that. Anybody wants to discuss it or have anything else to add to it?
yes, no, good.
Senator Khan.
No, I'd rather hear from the person who made the motion first.
Okay. Senator Hennessy.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Chair. I think that there are some elements of this that are that we should look at in the budget when finance takes it up in the Senate. And a re-refer motion would allow us to look at that as opposed to an alternative motion. So I think it needs a little bit of work, but I would love to see pieces of it in the final budget.
Does that address your question, Senator Khan?
No, I just wanted, if I thought the maker of the motion ought to be able to present her reason. I would ask my colleagues to vote down a re-refer motion and so that I can introduce and ought to pass. When this was similar kind of conversation has already taken place at the Senate chamber level. It occurred on Senate Bill 135.
Mhm.
I offered an amendment to 135 that would have provided for fiscal capacity disparity aid. That's what the topic is here on Senate Bill 145. It's a bill that, and I actually, I should be offering at this moment an amendment to 145 that I would like to introduce. And that is amendment number 491.
Can you add an amendment to a re-refer motion?
Ava?
You cannot. So my understanding is we would need to vote down that re-refer motion.
Well, let me continue with my argument then of wishing to have us defeat the re-refer motion so that I could introduce the motion that we considered during our discussion on Senate Bill 135. You may recall on 135, what we were trying to do is establish a funding level for schools for fiscal 22 and try to communicate to schools early on that they were not going to be penalized for a change in their census numbers between fall 19 and fall 20. That passed. And during that discussion, I offered the amendment that would have added $36 million to that bill in order for us to recognize fiscal capacity disparity aid. Fiscal capacity disparity aid would add $36 million to the budget. It still leaves a decrease in education spending from fiscal 21 to fiscal 22 of $24 million. So this bill, though, helps 80 of our lowest property valuation communities. And what we know from our budget this year is that helping the low property valuation communities leads to property tax reductions. What we're leaving out of the budget is the ability to help towns and cities like Rochester and Derry, like Keene and Milford, like New Ipswich, Newport, Hillsborough, Berlin,
Claremont.
Lancaster, towns that are all different sizes, large and small, that have one characteristic in common. They have lowest property valuations per pupil in the state. And when we did this in fiscal 21, 63 of 100 towns wound up reducing their taxes. That's exactly what the purpose of this was, to try to help those towns that have to raise their tax rates so high that they're $20 and more per thousand. I think that it's the right thing to do. We said on the floor, the way that we would handle this is it would be in committee. This committee would make a policy recommendation to the finance committee, and the finance committee would determine how to put this in the budget. This is backwards. This isn't the process that was laid out by the Senate on Senate Bill 135. And so now we're just going to bury it in this committee with the possibility that somebody's going to take that kernel of an idea and introduce it in the finance committee. I think there's another route. And I think the other route is let the policy committee say fiscal capacity disparity aid is an important part of what the next budget ought to consider. And then the Senate can act on this. We can table it. The Senate can hold it, and the finance committee can make a determination as to whether it's going to be incorporated into the budget. That's the way that we've said we're going to handle fiscal issues that come from policy matters, and let those be decided and determined in the finance committee. So I think there's another route. I think this is an important signal to send to those lowest property valuation communities that we support them and that we're planning to do something meaningful for them in this fiscal 22 budget as we transition to hopefully another kind of budget methodology in the future that's going to recognize this on a more permanent basis. I hope that we will vote down this re-refer motion so that I can offer the amendment. And all the amendment does is it takes out any other language. It makes it a clean bill that is just about fiscal capacity disparity aid, not trying to save any money on this. Just deal with that question, move it over to finance, and let them have a shot at how they want to incorporate this into the next budget. Thank you.
Senator Hennessy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. As I said earlier, I think there are good pieces in this. The idea is good. Why I am re-referring it is because it provides fiscal disparity aid for 1 year. I had a meeting with my largest district, largest city. I only have one city in my district yesterday. One-time fiscal disparity aid does not help them because it fluctuates their spending and they can only spend it on capital improvements. So what I would like to do is figure out how we can do this on an ongoing basis to get the funds to the places that need it the most. So that is why I'm re-referring it. If you don't want me to re-refer it, I would ITL it because I don't agree with the way it's putting it out there. I also think we should include the free and reduced lunch disparity portion that we included in our prior spending, and I would do it over the entire biennium. So we need to look at this in the finance committee so we can help the communities in our districts that need it the most. I don't think this does it. I think this sends a message that you can have some spending some years, and then you're going to have to redo your entire budget the next year. And per my discussions with Berlin, this does not help them much.
Thank you, Senator Hennessy.
Uh,
So
that-
where are we? Are you going to vote? Do you want to vote on the re-refer motion? Senator Khan?
I appreciate the comments by my colleague, and I look forward to seeing her further thoughts. We could have introduced that kind of amendment in here. I would just add that the intent of this motion was to be the bridge so that we could talk about a more sustained funding model for education. That is Senate Bill 158. So this was the one-year transition to get us to indeed a longer term funding model that would recognize the need for the opportunity of an adequate education and taxpayer equity across the state. So this bill wasn't acting in total isolation from the biennial budget. It is a part of a two-piece approach. I just wanted to clarify that and as to why it's addressing just fiscal 22. And I agree with Berlin. We need a long-term funding solution. That's what Senate Bill 158 is about.
So
Madam
Senator
Chair.
Khan, wouldn't it be better than to re-refer 145, work on it and get these other amendments included in it and then present it next session?
That was the intent that I was hoping for with 158. And next session would lead us into fiscal 23. So this is the piece that would help us for fiscal 22, help schools provide that bridge between fiscal 21 and fiscal 23 with an allocation in fiscal 22 that addressed 80 of the most needy communities.
Madam Chair, I believe Senator Prentice has her hand raised.
Was it?
I don't know. Couldn't tell what the hand gesture was, but
Do you have your hands raised? Is your hand
Yeah,
raised?
but I'm waiting my turn
Okay,
and I am not muted. So
okay.
I kind of, this is a little bit of a question for Senator Khan and a little bit for Senator Hennessy. So maybe I'll just make a statement and we can parse it from there. I actually appreciate what Senator Hennessy said, her position on this, but at the same time, I can't help but wonder why we wouldn't want to provide immediate aid that bridges us to exactly where Senator Hennessy wants to go. So that's, I mean, that was the spirit, not just the spirit, but the intent that we've been talking about all along. So that's where my struggle is. I want to do the right thing for these schools right now, especially in this time right now where they're hurting the most, but I don't think it precludes us from further action.
Well, we have Senate Bill 135 that is addressing.
Yeah, but it doesn't have the fiscal capacity disparity aid in it.
Senator Hennessy? Do you want to address 135? Senator Prentice
Sorry,
doesn't
I
think
was
that
sorry, I
has
was
the
muted.
disparity.
So yes, the Senate Bill 135 does not have fiscal disparity aid in it. The reason why I would like to re-refer this and look at it more deeply is because I want to make sure that the way we calculate which towns and cities get the fiscal disparity aid is correct. This bill doesn't look at that because I want to make sure that we're getting it to the communities that need it the most. And I can't find the RSA that defines the tiers of how this fiscal disparity aid is calculated. So as I've told Senator Khan in offline conversations, I like the idea of fiscal disparity aid. I want to make sure that when we include it going forward, that it wouldn't be one-time spending. It would be in the adequacy aid formula. And it would be getting to the communities that need it the most. And that's my opinion. So I would
Okay.
love to look at this in the finance committee.
Okay. So on the floor, we have a re-refer. And I guess I'll have to take a vote now to who would like to re-refer?
I move to re-refer, Madam Chair.
So I already have a first and a second, Madam Chair. Senator
Okay.
Hennessy, and then you're the second. So now it's just the roll call for the re-refer motion.
Senator Rishardi,
Yes, I vote to re-refer.
Senator Prentice,
No,
Senator Khan,
No,
Senator Ward. I already voted. So we have 3-2 for re-refer.
that's a good vote.
Senator Ward, Senator Hennessy did not. Those are just the motions. So everybody has to do the roll call. I'm sorry. I know.
It's
I
all
know.
right. It's all right. That's why you're here. Senator Hennessy.
Yes.
Okay.
And your vote is yes, Madam Chair.
Yes, I did.
Great.
So it's 3-2 for re-refer. Who wants to take this out? Senator Hennessy?
Sure.
Next, I am looking at 147.
block to pass, Madam Chair.
Pardon?
Second,
What was the motion?
Ought to pass by Senator Khan and seconded by Senator Hennessy.
Any discussion?
Madam Chair, I think there are several amendments on this bill.
Yes. And one of them I got this morning, so.
I believe I want to be
Senator Khan, you have one for part 1 of the bill.
for part 1 and part 3. It is, I'd like to move amendment 521. So that we can discuss that.
Okay. Everybody okay? It's moving, okay with moving amendment 521? Senator Rishardi?
You know what?
Yes,
can I,
Yes.
Madam Chair? Could you
Yes.
just remind us what this particular one does, please?
Glad to do that.
Thank you.
First off, the bill has 4 pieces. The bill has a piece of requiring completion of a free application for federal student aid, which is otherwise known as the FAFSA form. It has the central registry for maintaining records of relative to background checks at the Department of Education. It has a section on transportation of pupils for using chartered vehicles for trips that are of a long distance and not daily transportation needs. And it has a piece on special education aid requiring $250,000 allocation for small districts. Personally, I think when we get to the floor, I think there'll be a a request, and I would offer that request, that we separate this motion and take up pieces individually. And we can discuss further in this, how many pieces we need to take up separately.
Mhm.
But for the purposes of cleaning this up, I'm offering Amendment 521. And what 521 cleans up, you may recall in the testimony on part one, relative to the FAFSA completion, we had testimony in favor of the bill. There was no testimony in opposition. And that was, the suggestion came forward that we begin this in the 22-23 school year, at the time when the federal government and the Department of Education introduces the new FAFSA form, the Lamar-Alexander Act, which reduces the length of that form and its completion down to 18 questions, I believe.
Mhm.
And at that point, there'll be a big rollout from the federal level. We can do this rollout from the state level. And we heard from NEAF that they are prepared to assist in that process, as well as from the college financial aid officers.
Mhm.
So that's the nature of the amendment there, is to line up that 2023 start date as opposed
Right.
to 22.
Mhm. And then you had section 3 also, part 3 of the bill.
Yeah, and section 3 attempts to address some of the concerns that were raised by a couple of, well, one school bus driver who testified on behalf of 2 people. We've got some written testimony from a second person. And this clarifies the type of passenger vehicle, that it is 16 passengers or more.
Mhm.
It specifies that a driver must have a CDL license. And so I think it's an improvement. I think there are some ways that it's going to be not possible to address all of the concerns raised by that, by the person offering that testimony. I think this is an improvement. I think that there's further improvements. I've worked with the Department of Education, the Department of Safety on this bill. They continue to work with me. I've worked with school business officers who have a real problem in that they are using chartered vehicles that are 16 passengers that meet the qualifications that we're talking about here. They welcome the qualifications. There is one more step that needs to be taken here. So this is, I think we need to pass the bill, get it to the floor so we can separate this. I will offer at that point that this be re-referred, because there is a definition of a pupil transportation license that is part of the Department of Safety's licensing protocols. And that is not yet addressed here. That will take extra work by the Department of Safety. And so I think that this section of the bill needs a re-referral. But we need to move this in some manner
Right.
to the floor so that we can deal with each piece that needs to be separated.
Mhm.
And so I offer this amendment. I hope that you will accept this and that we'll move to pass the bill.
Bill. So are we ready for the amendment, to vote on the amendment? Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator DeShardy,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
and Senator Ward is yes. So that's 5-0. So the amendment passes. Now we have another amendment. It's 0704 that addresses the second part. And it was something requested by the DOE The one, and this is the thing I received at 8:30 this morning, and I sent it out, and I don't know whether you have a chance to look at it.
Not really. I mean,
So do you want me to go through it? It has to do with the central registry and the Department of Education, how they're going to maintain the records. And it has to do with the founded reports of abuse and neglect. The establishment and implementation of a secure system for addressing findings of abuse for individuals on the central registry pursuant to RSA 169-C:35. And the commissioner of the department shall allow the credentialing bureau of the Department of Education access to the records of applicants for purposes of RSA 21-N:9(2), and in accordance with RSA 189:13-C. And there's a new paragraph on the central registry. Upon receipt of written request from the Department of Education Credentialing Bureau, the department shall provide the Department of Education with a copy of the notice of finding or court order establishing the finding and resulting individual's name being placed on the central registry. Did any one of you have a chance to read through this morning? Should I continue to read it? The Department of Education shall maintain the confidentiality of all Division for Children, Youth, and Families records. New section, teacher credentialing criminal history records check. Amend RSA 189 by inserting after section 13-B the following new section. Credentialing applicant state registry check. In this subdivision, credentialing applicant means a first-time applicant for a New Hampshire teaching credential. The department shall complete a central registry check as established in RSA 169-C:35 on each credentialing applicant. The central registry shall include a check of the department's central registry of founded reports on child abuse under RSA 189-C:35. By submitting an application for a teaching credential, an applicant is deemed to have consented to have the Department of Education check his or her name for findings of abuse on the central registry. Any individual whose name has been submitted for this check who has been the subject of finding of abuse shall be denied a teaching credential by the department. The department shall adopt rules pursuant to RSA 541-A governing the rights of a credentialing applicant and the ability to appeal a denial of a teaching credential pursuant to a founded report of child abuse under RSA 169-C:35. And effective date of this act shall be January 1, 2022. This thing was requested by the DOE. Any questions or discussions on the amendment?
Madam Chair,
Yes, Senator Khan.
I'd offer that this amendment is consistent with another bill that is in judiciary that I'm introducing and is part of another omnibus bill that deals with initial credentialing of teachers and teacher applicants, teacher education applicants. So I think this is an effort to link these things together, the central registry and the criminal history background checks.
Okay.
I support you in this amendment.
Okay. Any other questions, discussions on the amendment before we vote on it? I wish I could say all in favor of the amendment, say aye, but I can't.
we're getting there.
I know. Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes.
Senator Ward, yes. So there's 5-0 for this amendment, and it is accepted. Now, I think what we have now is just the underlying bill.
So now, Madam Chair, we have the ought to pass as amended motion.
Yes,
So if someone wants to motion that and second it.
Yep.
Now, because we have those two amendments.
so does anybody want to have a motion about to
Yeah,
pass?
I'll motion ought to pass as amended.
Second,
Senator Shardy.
Senator Shardy will second it. Good. So ought to pass with the amendments. Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes,
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
and Senator Wards is 5-0. Who wants to take it out? Do you want to take it out, Senator Khan?
Can do that. I am the prime on this.
Okay, do you want to
Take
take
it
it out or do you want somebody else to do it?
I think it might be better if
Senator Prentice?
he takes it out.
Happy
Okay,
to help. Yep, we'll do it.
so Senator Prentice will take it out. Okay, how about 148? That one has a couple of amendments.
I would move ought to pass so that we'd have a motion on the table to begin to consider the amendments.
Okay, and I'll second that. Now, I think Senator Waters has an amendment on part 2. And that has to do with career and technical education. Now, you should have had a chance to read this one.
Madam Chair, this one was also sent this morning and it's in OneDrive. So I don't know if everybody has. And it's
Okay.
unofficial language. It's in a Word document. Oh,
Are you
well,
talking about, he sent something this morning on section 5.
yeah.
This is section 2.
Oh, I'm sorry. Then yes, if we're talking about section 2, then
Yeah.
that's separate.
So you have all read section 2.
Have,
The amendment is 426S. And that one had to do with, he was going to do an amendment on the construction of renovation, career and technical education centers. And this amendment addresses that. Are you ready to vote on the amendment?
No, give me one more minute. Mrs. Waters, okay. I'm all set.
Okay.
I'm gonna go
Anybody
back
else?
and make sure I had the right one.
I know it's hard one of these omnibus bills, but you have one person being responsible for several sections.
Sorry, which number are we looking at again? I apologize.
Looking at 426, 0426.
Gotcha.
That's for the addresses to part 2 of 148 FN. So ready to vote on the amendment? Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
yes,
Senator Khan,
yes.
Senator Prentice?
Yes.
And Senator Ward says yes. So the amendment passes. Now we have section 4.
Post-secondary.
I have a question on section 3, and I think we can do that just as a committee amendment. On part 3, that's the dealing with sports-related injuries. And it shall take effect upon its passage. Essentially, we're talking about that most of the schools and agency are not going to be able to have a plan in place by, if, when we pass this thing. So we need to give them a little bit more time. And it was September 1st, 2022 was suggested as the date. And if that's agreeable to all of you, then I think we can make a committee amendment. Yes, Senator Hennessy?
Thank you. I believe that the prime sponsor of this section agreed with that fix
Okay. Senator Gannon?
during the hearing.
Okay, okay. So let's vote on that. We'll change instead of take effect upon its passage, it will be take effect September 1st, 2022.
I'll move that committee amendment, Madam Chair.
I'll second it.
Second, Senator Prentice will second it. Okay, Senator Khan.
Are you to vote on that committee amendment?
Yeah. Just changing the date from on passage to September 1st, 2022 on part 3.
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Deschardi,
Yes,
Senator Ward says yes. So you make a note of that, Ava, right?
I was muted. Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay. Now, part 4, I have a very short amendment. It says it's referred to as the yoga bill. The people who teach yoga do not want to consider themselves a career school. So we've talked back and forth, and I've talked to the person who is representing the yoga people, and I've talked to Mr. Appleby of the DOE. And I think you all have that amendment as well, because it was sent out quite a while ago. It's 0557S. So the new subparagraph, part 4 of the bill, by replacing section 1 with the following. New subparagraphs, private secondary career schools definition. Then M, entities that have an annual gross tuition of 100,000 or less. And N, entities offering instructional programs or courses for teaching fitness and recreational wellness, provided that any such entity with gross annual income of over $100,000 directly attributable to instructional programs or courses for teaching fitness and recreational wellness shall provide a surety bond as required in RSA 188-G:3. So that's the amendment for part 4.
Have a number on that amendment?
557S.
Madam Chair, I move ought to pass 557S.
Second. Senator Shardy.
I'll second it.
Okay. Senator Prentice,
Oh, yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
and Senator Ward is yes. So that's 5-0, and that amendment passes. Now,
Madam Chair.
yes.
So the motion, so you and Senator Ricciardi and Senator Hennessy motioned, and then I got the votes of Senator Prentice, Senator Khan, and you, but I didn't get the votes of Senator Ward and Senator Hennessy.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes,
Okay.
Super.
you got all of them?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now this is section 5 of 148 FN. Environmental and outdoor education and establishing the New Hampshire Youth Environmental Education and Conservation Council. I had a lengthy talk with Senator Waters, and I think that Senator Hennessy might have spoken to him as well. And what he just delivered, I guess late last night, or I got it early this morning, was a replace all amendment. Did you all receive it?
Yes.
Anybody not receiving it?
I've got it.
It essentially maintains the first part of that section but takes out all the stuff that has to do with building and building aid and grants and the rest of it. So my vote is to replace all for that.
Madam Chair, I hate to interrupt. I did just receive an email from OLS with the formal language of the amendment we're discussing, like quite literally within minutes just now. I just
Okay.
forwarded it to the committee. I'm assuming it's obviously the same as the informal language that we're discussing that Senator Waters sent, but I just wanted you to know I just got that from OLS.
Okay.
I just sent it to everybody.
Now, my question then is, do we have to look at the OLS amendment?
I mean, since you have it in your possession, I would assume it couldn't hurt. I mean, everybody now has it. It's completely up to you.
I haven't looked at it. I have to go to my computer and print it to print it out if I'm going to look at it. So do you want to take a 5-minute recess and get it off your printers?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. 5-minute recess. I'll go and check it out.
Thank you.
Erin, did you get the amendment?
Yeah, I have it. Thank you.
It has not arrived in my mailbox, so I can't get it.
Ava, is it in the OneDrive?
Excuse me.
Sorry, Senator. What was the question?
Senator Wards hasn't received it in her email yet. Is it in the OneDrive?
Yes, it is.
Well, that's going to take me another 10 minutes to get to that point, so. it's- Going to the OneDrive requires so many steps that it is,
Do you want me to screen share? Would that make it easier?
that would be great if
Okay.
you could do that, because then we can look at it.
Give me just 1 second here. And I'll screen share. Does everybody see it?
Could you make it a little bigger?
Can you see it? Is that
Yep.
okay?
2. Can you move it up a little now?
Oh boy. Just let me know when you need me to keep moving it, Madam Chair.
Okay. Yeah, you can move it up. I'm on the second page, okay. It's the same as what he has sent me this morning.
Okay.
Okay, you can move it up. Ten. Six. They put in 6, that shouldn't be there. School building aid amount of grant. That is, they took that out from the other one. It ends after 12. No, that amendment is not right.
Okay. I don't know where to move it, so I will stop moving it until you let me know if
Okay.
you want me to keep scrolling.
When you see 12, the Director of Career and Technical Education shall report to the Advisory Council, Outdoor Recreation Industry. And then underneath there's it's a number 9, Department of Natural and Cultural Resources, who they should report to, and that's it. And at the end, it says, accords and report to the legislator its findings by June 1, 2022. So that whole section 6 that you have there on grant and school building is not in his thing here.
In his informal or unofficial
Yes.
amendment from this morning.
Yes, yes.
I have a question.
Yes.
Is there a way, if it's not written right, that we can just hold off for next week, or how does this work?
These things have to be out by the 11th. That's the last day for the fiscal impact thing.
Madam
Okay.
Chair, someone's going to get in touch with Senator Waters, or attempt to right now,
Okay,
just to understand why there's the discrepancy in the two amendments.
yeah. So that's the only thing that we're waiting for on 148. Because what he sent me is not, the school building aid, that whole section is gone. Do you want to hold off on this until we have that from OLS?
So I just want to confirm, Madam Chair, in our OneDrive folder for SB 148,
Yeah,
we have, we've already gone through 465S for Senator Waters. We've done your committee amendment. We worked on 557S, but in the OneDrive, we do have a few, I have 557S in the OneDrive. That is your amendment. I'm not sure if we're keeping that or.
557S,
Mhm.
we're keeping.
So we haven't taken, yep, we've done that. And then 426 of Senator Waters, we voted on that.
Yep,
391S and 390S are two amendments that we have in the OneDrive that are yours that we've not taken any action on yet.
well, what do they have to do with? Part 4?
Let me see here.
Because I think we had a couple of amendments and this is the final one, 557. That's the only one I have here.
Okay. So, yep, this 391S is for part 4. And
Now you can
39,
eliminate, you can
Okay.
take that out.
those are gone. Okay. Just wanted to make sure
Mhm.
we weren't missing anything.
Oh, so many papers here.
So is OLS responding?
Someone's trying to get in touch with Senator Waters right now.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
in the event that we can't get in touch with Senator Waters, because I would like it to be what he is asking for.
Yep.
Perhaps we can make a committee amendment and then allow for, and then he could bring his final amendment to the floor. Or if it's still not ready, then we can take this piece out and on the floor next week.
Senator Prentice, did you have a question?
I have a question about something else. Sorry, go ahead.
So Ava, I don't know about that. And it seems to me that OLS, either if this is what he gave me and I went through it and I said, do you want this to replace all? And he said, yes. And if they didn't get, because he was in his letter, in his note to me, he said, so the building aid and everything, all of those things are out. So it seems to me that I don't know what OLS did with that, but that's what we need to find out. I don't know if we can take this out and bring it back in again on the floor.
So two-part answer to that question. So Senator Hennessy's correct. We could move in that direction. And then if Senator Waters felt necessary, he could offer a floor amendment. or we could just move forward with the Word document that we were basing this entire discussion off of prior to us getting all the official language from OLS. And then, you know, we can not take action on that amendment and just take action on the Word amendment, or Word document, excuse me, that's that amendment language. Or we can move on to another bill and come back to this if we can hear from Senator Waters. There's a few avenues we can take, but I
Okay.
mean,
I would like to hold off on this bill until we hear from him and OLS, so that we have the right thing, because I have the Word document, which is different, much shorter, and that's what he said. This is a much shorter, addresses the natural environment and the education, but all the building stuff is taken out.
right,
So somebody didn't get the right message.
there you are. Okay.
So is that okay with you to hold off on this 148? Yes, Senator Prentice?
It's completely okay, Senator Ward. It's okay with me to hold off on it. But I wanted to just, to propose another committee amendment to section 3, the emergency response plans, and put it in the Roman numeral 2, based on the Department of Education's suggestion that we make sure that this plan is also incorporated in the emergency response plan for the school. So remember, they said to us, look, this is fine, but can you put this all in? And I needed to bring this forward in an amendment. So I'm just catching it at this moment. I want to make sure, is there a way that I can procedurally, how would you like me to move
Proceed.
forward? I'd like you to roll. Yeah.
So
Where
just to-
where did you want to add
I think
on
it should
part 3?
so we could do this. So I think it should go in part 3. It should go in section 2. And we could do it in the last sentence. Each plan and adopted procedure shall be reviewed and updated as necessary, as well as included as part of the school's emergency response plan.
I think that's short enough that we should be able to do that.
So I'm just wanting to make sure I'm at the right spot, Senator, where you're wanting to amend it. What page are you on here? You're on page 7?
Line 26.
Okay,
Page 7, line 26.
and you would like to insert language that would incorporate,
The very last sentence, we can expand that says, each plan and adopted procedure shall be reviewed annually and updated as necessary and included. So included or incorporated, maybe incorporated as part of the school's emergency response plan.
okay,
I want to make sure this is the right place for this. So while we're mulling and working on the Senator Waters, but it is a line that I needed to add in there. So I apologize for the last minute roll, but we did hear from the department and the sponsor agreed to this.
And the school's emergency
Response plan.
response plan.
Yeah, every school has a comprehensive response plan. So they want to make sure that this is part of that.
Yeah.
It's wrapped into there.
Okay, is it included or incorporated? What is the better word?
I think included,
Okay,
because it doesn't get merged into another particular section. It becomes a part of.
okay. And if this is and included in the school's emergency response plan.
Yep.
Okay,
so you'll move that, Senator Prentice, and then we'll have a second to move that, and then we'll vote on that.
I'll second
When
it.
we get back to this, sorry.
Well, that's okay. There's so many moving pieces. So what we'll do is I have a motion, we've moved it, Senator Hennessy seconded it. And then what we should do just to finish this step of this bill is we should vote on this now. And then when we come back, we'll just have Senator Waters' piece. So we'll do, now that somebody moved it, somebody seconded it, we can take the roll if Madam Chair is ready for that.
Yep, I'm ready. So this is adding in section 3, the last sentence in under 2. Updated as necessary and included in the school's emergency response plan.
I have updated annually, but is that?
Yeah, I didn't read the whole sentence.
Yeah, the
Okay.
sentence says
Yeah.
that in it.
Yes. Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
and Senator Ward was yes. So that committee amendment is taken care of.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay, so we should hold off a little bit on 148 until we hear from Senator Waters and OLS. Okay, let's look at 158.
Chair, I would move to re-refer Senate Bill 158.
I'll second.
148. Senator Khan moves re-refer. That's,
Motion. I think this is, we now have a fiscal note on 158. And it demonstrates that in the current year, that could be implemented within existing dollars. There are no new dollars required to implement the recommendations of the Commission to Study School Funding.
okay.
It's a repackaging of existing dollars based on student outcomes as opposed to the current standardized accounting ratios that we have as our current method of distribution. I don't think I need to cover the flaws that there are in the current ratios. They are theoretical. They don't exist in any school in the state, not in part nor in some. And it starts at a very low $3,700 allocation per student. And that is what goes to every district. It's not on the basis of the student characteristics or community's need. Were we wishing to have an aid distribution that was based on student outcomes and the opportunity for an adequate education based on student outcomes and the community's capacity to raise dollars sufficient to achieve those student outcomes, we could establish a predicted cost and we could allocate dollars to districts based on that. And so I hope you've had a chance to take a look at that fiscal analysis. There are issues as we go forward as to how we refresh that on an annual basis. And that's what the fiscal analysis says. And it's something I recognize as well. So in the same vein that Senator Hennessy explained her desire to look at fiscal 22, while I disagree that that takes the kind of thought that we need to do for a long-term funding formula, I do think that as we look to fiscal 23, we need to take that broader look. So I'm hoping that we will re-refer this, that this committee will continue to look at the various funding approaches that we can take so that we can achieve what the court has asked us to do. Provide for reasonable and proportionate taxation and school funding that can provide both student and taxpayer equity at levels that we can't currently do with our existing formula. So I think this will take more effort and I look forward to working with my colleagues on this committee to look at this recommendation, this bill, and the various components. And we can have a work session with the Department of Education and legislative budget analysts so that we can refine this and identify the ways to package a bill that can look forward to fiscal 23 and beyond.
Thank you, Ms. Senator Khan. Further discussion? Senator Hennessy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I want to recognize that the commission, the amount of work the commission put into trying to figure out how to better fund education in New Hampshire. I think that we can all agree that our kids are the most important asset that the state has, followed by our natural resources maybe. But I will not be voting in favor of re-refer. I think this bill, as it's written right now, needs to be completely redone. And here are some of my thoughts on that. It increases property taxes by $35 million, which is something that I'm not in favor of doing to my towns right now. In some of the instances, some of the smaller towns would have to pay for their grant increase with a property tax increase. So while you're giving them money over here, you're taking money from them over here. Additionally, the formula brings back donor towns. And I think we all probably have what would become a receiver town and a donor town in our district. And I know that all the donor towns do not feel comfortable becoming a donor town again. It's very controversial, and that's why we got rid of it in the state. The other piece of the donor town that I have an issue with is that although this bill attempts to provide a mechanism for people in donor towns to experience some property tax relief, it doesn't give enough details about how they would get that relief. It caps the relief at $25 million, and it doesn't allow for, it doesn't say where that $25 million will be coming from. Is that $25 million of relief going to be an additional property tax increase? There's a lot more just minor things, but I think this bill as it is right now has too many flaws for me to say that let's re-refer and look at it. I think it just needs to be redone. I think the commission needs to look at the bill. The commission itself needs to assess the language of the bill and figure out a way that New Hampshire is comfortable going forward in improving education and adequacy. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Senator Prentice?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and Senator Hennessy, thank you for your comments. So my struggle is here. I mean, in the district that I represent, I have communities are on both sides of this, including the community I live in believes that it will be a donor town, but there are other communities in this district that would benefit greatly. And I'm supporting re-referral because I think, this is the opportunity to do that kind of work, not to, I think the commission has done extensive work and a yeoman's job, and I might not agree with everything in it, but how much further, I have an issue on principle for how much further are we going to continue? We're going to stop and start again. Are we going to take something and work with it and make it work for our state? Or are we going to stop and start again? I mean, your comments are valid, and I agree with some of them and have that same complexity in my own district. But I don't know if stopping or starting all over again gets us anywhere, but just another notch down the road. I'd like to support the commission's work and see if we can do what the process of re-referral does, which allows us to do this kind of work. That's greatly with respect for your comments. That's what I'd like to do.
I have heard from towns in my district, and like Senator Prentice, I have some pretty small towns with not much money, and then I have towns that have are much better off. And I have heard from them says, do not pass this bill. We do not want to be a donor town again. So I will not vote in favor of this bill. Senator Shardy?
Yes, although I believe the thought is in the right place, I cannot vote for this bill either because I've heard from many constituents, some in my district and some not, that do not want to become a donor town. And I don't see where there's enough merit to benefit, because if you look at the sweat, you're going to end up having way more property taxes. And I am a champion for reducing property taxes, not increasing them. Don't think this is the solution for adequate education. I think we can do better.
Senator Prentice?
Thank you. Thank you, Chairwoman Ward, and again, Senator Ricciardi, great comments. I just want to go to Senator Khan for a question.
Certainly.
If I may, Senator Khan, if I were to continue in my support of this in re-referral, will we have the time and ability to address the formulas, the donor town issue, basically everything you've heard today that have come from communities? Are we going to be able to address that or not? I mean, just brass tacks, like how far do you think we can get?
Further, and I think this is a legislative issue. You can't keep passing this off and not dealing with this in the legislature. That was the attempt of trying to take the commission's recommendations and put them into a single bill so that the legislature could consider this. It's a legislative matter. I think this is a great committee to consider it. The commission is not going to come up with a bill that isn't going to have to go back through the legislature and be considered and written again. So I think the commission's report is there. It's there for our use. It is now for us to determine how to move forward. There are some things there that need to be adjusted. There needs to be a lengthening of time to implement this. There's testimony that was provided to us by Bill Ardinger, who said in Massachusetts, when they implemented a fair distribution of their state funds, it took them 10 years to do it. This isn't going to be done that quick. So we should re-refer this bill and start to work on it as a legislature, and not try to push this over and have the commission continue to do this. We should all recognize in the House there's a bill to terminate the commission. So whether that passes or not, I don't know. But it's certainly out there. And so again, I believe this is a good committee. I think we can be fair to the various perspectives that have been shared here right now. Concerns about donor towns, concerns about how quickly this is implemented, and be smart about how we take existing dollars and allocate them. If I can say one more thing about what was said previously about this is an increase in property taxes. This is not an increase. There's no increase in property taxes. What the state of New Hampshire does is it does levy a state property tax. And it then writes a check back. That's the process. I mean, there actually isn't a check being written, but that's the way it's defined. Dollars are recorded in the state treasury for the statewide property tax. And towns are allowed to receive dollars back if they don't need any state appropriation, any state education funding, any state education grant to support their schools. That's an extraordinary thing. That means those towns are paying for their education with a property tax of $1.91. Can you believe that, Senator Prentice? Where you have a town like Claremont in your district, where you know that they're charging at least $20 per thousand to support their schools in their district. And other districts in the state are doing it at $1.91 and receiving dollars back in the state's accounting in a grant to support their schools. To support their schools more than the statewide average, which is their right to do, to raise taxes to support their schools. But the disproportionality that we have in the state and is not right. And when it comes to the tax relief program, we are currently paying for the tax relief program out of our education trust fund. It's $2 million a year. It provides aid of $200 per recipient. That's not sufficient. That has not been changed in years since it was introduced. The tax relief program here essentially is being funded so that it can benefit all towns in the state, people in all towns, because whether you're in a property poor or property high property valuation community, there are people who are unable to keep up with the property valuation increases in their communities and need a tax relief program that's actually going to be meaningful to them. And so that's why the tax relief program is a part of this, an integral part of this. The pieces are here. There may need to be another piece or two added. There may be transitions and there may be smoothing. There are ways and levers in this that are outlined where things can shift up and shift down. But to discard this bill is to say that we don't have information from the School Funding Commission that is guiding our future education grant distribution. And I think that's wrong. I think we have guidance in this study as to how to distribute those funds. We need to figure out how we can implement that and over what time period we can implement that. I think that the legislators got to roll up their sleeves and get to work on this. So I hope re-referral. I hope I've said something here that you can see. There's no new taxation here. This is a question of how we apply the taxation that we currently have, and I hope we can go forward as a group, as a committee, to develop this to a point that we can share it with our colleagues sometime in this session or the next.
Senator Prentice.
Thank you, Chairwoman Ward, and it's a follow-up and a statement. So I want to just thank Senator Khan for his clarifications. This is not a vote to. Sorry, my dog, the mailman. There's okay, and she's little too. This is not a vote to ought to pass. This is a vote to re-refer. So that's that. If we're talking about passing right now, I would have heartache based on the spread of my district and the feedback that I've gotten. But I think it's important to remember that the legislature asked a school funding commission to study this, actually funded that commission. I think it was $500,000 to do this work. And so we have the key elements laid out. Now, we might not agree on all of the key elements. But what I clearly hear from Senator Khan, and I've heard from others in the commission, is that there is work that we can do. And as a legislature, we should be doing it. To scrap this and start again, in my mind and principle, is just like saying, you know, this wasn't good enough. We're going to go back at this again. When in New Hampshire are we really going to, you know, are we going to solve this problem? So I'm not asking you to ought to pass right now. I'm asking for a re-referral. Let's take the work of this body and the intent of the legislature when they asked this, the commission to do it, and get back with them and work on the concerns that have been brought forward. That's what this committee is here to do. And I think we can all do it. I think I've already rolled up my sleeves and I'm ready to go. So
Good.
I'm going to stop there, and I appreciate everyone's time. Thank you.
Senator Hennessy.
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Madam Chair. I would like to politely disagree with one of the other senators. This does raise property taxes. SWEP stands for Statewide Education Property Tax. In the past, sometimes you would keep your SWEP, but this doesn't allow you to keep your SWEP anymore. The SWEP goes to the state, and on page 4 of the bill, line 3 through 5, Revenue Administration shall set the education tax rate at $2 per $1,000 of equalized assessed value. And in the fiscal note, it says, sorry, my fiscal note isn't numbered, an increase of $35 million per year in the EFT, and that is going from SWEP, Statewide Education Property Tax. So the $2 per $1,000 equalized valuation will result in $35 million in increased property tax. And as I said before, you may get a larger education grant from this, but you're going to turn around and find out that you may have paid more for that education grant in your property taxes. So I will be voting against this. We passed as a body SB 99 this year, Senator Ricciardi's bill, that helps our town with increased property tax relief by returning rooms and meals taxes to them. This would negate that. So I will not be supporting this. Thank you.
I have a question of Senator Khan, maybe a comment or a question. So you are basing this bill on the recommendations of the School Funding Commission?
Yes.
And my question to you is, who was on the school commission? How bipartisan was the commission? Did we get a variety of recommendations, or were the recommendations pretty much one way?
So the commission was 16 members. There were legislative appointees that comprised 5 of those members. Of those 5, one was a Republican, and he chairs the House Education Committee currently. He did not support the recommendations. The governor's appointee, Bill Ardinger, he was a very active participant in the discussions, and he did support and came to the committee and offered his support to our committee in support of Senate Bill 158. The remainder of the committee was a BIA representative, a past president. There were 3 school superintendents, one of which was retired. There were business people, one from Fidelity, one from a person from Portsmouth. So I guess what I'm trying to say is it was broad representation regionally and demographically.
And politically?
You know, I politically, clearly, I said, of those five, but politically, I mean, there wasn't a litmus test in this committee. There, among the chairman was a Democrat. If it was comprised today, maybe that wouldn't be the case, but
Mm.
that was the Democratic. The motion came as a result of a Democratic majority in the House to create the commission. So I don't think that the committee worked with consultants. It took testimony from hundreds of people. I think that to call this a partisan recommendation really it really deceives the public from what the makeup of the group was, and how intense their work was over the last 12-month period. So I think it represents a broad understanding of issues. I'd again come back. The mechanism of the state property tax is that it's all recorded with the state. And then we remit some dollars back to communities that don't need to raise $1.91 in order to support their schools. That's the amount that if the Department of Revenue Administration collected the tax, it would retain. And then there's a question of, so how do we use those dollars? Does it go back to those communities? Because it's now a statewide property tax. It already exists. Whether it's $1.91 or $2, we can argue whether the 9 cents ought to be amended. That's something we can, and that's what the re-refer is about. You want to make it $1.91 instead of $2? We can do that. As I said, there are all sorts of levers here that can be turned up and down. We need to roll up our sleeves and understand the various components and see where we go. That statewide property tax, when it was first initiated, was $6.60. That's what raised $363 million. The reason why there are donor towns, or this sense of that, is because we capped what we'll accept as a state from the statewide property tax at $363 million. If we would have let that float, that would be $1 billion today. But we didn't do that. We set that cap. And you know what has supported school funding increases ever since 2008? It has been local property taxes, not any additional dollars from the state, not from the state property tax. The dollars that are going to support school increases are entirely local property taxes. So yeah, let's reduce local property taxes, but it's going to take something different. And I'm fully supportive of wanting to do that. I think we need to work together on this bill to try to find how do we adjust the levers that are presented to us in a fair way, and we can get there. So I hope the committee will want to work on this further. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Khan, for answering my question. Any further discussion? So, are you ready to vote on this bill?
And this is the motion to re-refer.
Yep. So the motion on the floor is to re-refer, I think, by Senator Khan and seconded by Senator Prentice.
Correct.
So I'll do the roll call. Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi,
No,
Senator Hennessy,
No.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Ward, no. So that's 2-3 for re-refer. So do I have another motion? Another motion on the floor for the bill? Senator Hennessy, did you have something? Yes.
I'll move ITL, Madam Chair.
I'll second it.
ITL by Hennessy and Shardy. Senator Khan,
No.
Senator Shardy,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
No,
Senator Ward, yes. So that's 3-2. And who wants to take this out? Senator Rishardi will take this out. Do we have anything more, Ava, from on 148?
Yeah, so I was actually just going to provide a check-in and do a little update. So I did hear back, and Senator Waters said you were correct, Madam Chair, that the language you two discussed in his Word document, unofficial language, is the language that is intended to be the amendment. The language in OLS, the language that OLS provided did not delete certain parts. That's wrong. So
Okay.
it would be best just to proceed with this unofficial Word document amendment. And then when we compile our comprehensive committee amendment, it'll go all into one place anyways. So we just
Okay.
have to wrap that up for 148, and we still have Senate Bill 130.
Yes.
Okay.
So can we just finish up with 148 with a Word document?
So, yep. So that would probably just be best, considering that's the language that Senator Waters intended.
Okay. So you know what the new amendment was, essentially taking anything out from 6 all the way out. So it's just a very short amendment.
Right. So we're just basing it off of the Word document. We're not even
Right.
going to use
Okay.
the OLS one we just
So you
got.
have the Word document. Are you okay with that? That will be part 5, replace all with that Word document.
So that's a committee amendment. I would move a committee amendment that we
Well,
accept.
that's the amendment from Senator Waters on section 5 on 148.
Does everybody have that, or do you need me to screen share that?
can you screen share one more time?
Sure.
Is in the OneDrive.
Yeah. Oh,
It's
I mean, I could go back into the OneDrive.
just about 2 pages.
Okay.
Whenever you need me to scroll, just let me know.
Senator Ward, we're going to need to consider that as a committee amendment, right?
All
I
right.
don't know if we
Ava,
do or not.
Waters
And
amendment.
this is Senator Waters' amendment. It's not the official printed with LOS on it.
We could proceed like we did with the 2 other verbal amendments that Senator Prentice provided. It's similar. Either way is fine.
Okay. Whichever way we need to do it.
So if
But
someone wants to move it
This
and
is his
second-
replace all on Senate Bill 148, Part 5.
Do you need a motion?
if someone would like to move it and then second it, then we can take the roll.
I'll move it.
Senator Prentice moves. I'll second it.
Thank you, Senator.
So Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Rishardi,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Ward. Yes, it's 5-0 for the amendment.
Okay.
And now we need to do the underlying bill.
Yep. The ought to pass as amended motion is
Yep.
what's up next.
So ought to pass with amendments.
Madam Chair,
Yes,
in talking with Senator Waters, there's one other amendment I'd like to offer, and it's on part 2, page 3, under number 3.
A new amendment?
Yes.
Does he
Senator
have something else? Because we already had his amendment on part 2.
Did it change from the original bill? I'm sorry. I don't think it, can you refer me back to that amendment?
So the amendment that we voted on first on Senate Bill 148 was 0426S, which is one of Senator Waters' amendments. That was a 5-0. Is it different than that one, Senator?
I believe it is. Sorry, I'm getting there. Yes, this is all related to the construction side to that. So if we can take a look at the original bill, and if you would look at page 3, section 3, Roman 2. First sentence there. So
Is it on line 9?
I'm screen sharing it, Senator Khan.
line 8.
Yeah,
That we delete that sentence.
Delete line 8.
Yes.
So section 2 would start with career and technical education of consistent. Is that the,
on page 3, line 8, with the Roman numeral 2, New Hampshire students have a right to a career and technical education. We'll strike that.
Correct.
okay.
And that's per Senator Waters.
I wish he would have put that in writing to us, but it's what he verbally said to me.
Okay.
Can I ask why?
That it's covered sufficiently in the other words that are there.
Okay. So that's the committee amendment.
Another one, yeah.
So let's vote on that one.
Can someone move it and then second it, please?
Move.
And I'll
Okay.
second it. So Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Ward, yes. Okay. You get all these changes, Ava?
So I'm feeling good about it.
Okay, did I have a second and first, move in a second on 148 ought to pass?
No.
Yeah. No, I introduced that at the get-go. Right?
Senator Khan is moving ought to pass?
So ought to pass is amended. So we have Senator Khan, and then who wants to second it?
Yes.
I'll second it. Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Ward, yes. That's 5-0. Do you want to put that on consent?
Yes. Move consent.
I'll second.
Okay. Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Shardy,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
and Senator Warder, yes. So that's 5-0 for consent.
I'll take that out.
Okay. Senator Khan will take it out. Excellent.
Madam Chair, could I ask for a short recess?
10 minutes?
Oh,
Will that do it?
Generous.
five will do.
Five.
Or 5 will do? Okay.
I'll
sure.
take 10.
Take 10.
Okay, we're gonna split this at 7.5 and everybody go.
Sounds good.
Okay, see you in 10.
How'd we do on time? Oh, you're muted, Senator, Madam Chair.
Okay. We're all back in session.
So while we have left, Madam Chair, is 1:30 with the amendments that we have for that. And I will caution that transportation does need our Zoom. So we have when we're done, so we have a hard stop at 12:20.
Yes.
Okay.
We will stop before then, I hope.
Me too.
Okay, so we have 12:20. We have Senate Bill 130 before us, which is the bill that establishes the Education Freedom Account Program. Do I have a motion for the bill? Rishardi, you are muted.
And Madam Chair, Senator Prentice and Senator Hennessy had their hands raised.
Senator Hennessy,
Madam Chair, I'll move ought to pass.
Senator Prentice, did you want us?
No, I was going to move it inexpedient to legislate. So
Oh, I see. Okay. So we have a motion on the floor ought to pass. Is it a second? Senator Rishardi,
Second.
second it. Okay, we have a couple of amendments to this bill. I have an amendment. We can start with that because it's not very long.
6 amendment. I have 6 amendments.
I have it's the amendment 0653S. And that amendment provides the means by which scholarship organization may assess academic attainment from participating students, including federal and state standardized tests or a portfolio to be reviewed annually by a current New Hampshire educator. You have all the amendments? Do you have that, all of you?
Yes.
Okay. So I don't have to read it. Do I have a motion on the floor for the amendment?
Want to move it? And then
What
we
was
can
that?
This is 653.
653, yes, yes. Do I have a motion on the floor to accept the amendment? Senator Hennessy,
I'll move ought to pass.
a second? Senator Rishardi,
I second it.
okay. Senator Prentice?
Mm.
The motion is ought to pass on the amendment.
Sorry, we keep changing the order up. So I thought I was asking you. Sorry. No.
Senator Khan?
Guess I'll vote no on this. I'd be glad to explain that.
It is there for the, mostly for the, if the homeschooler opts to use the EFAs, that there is more than one way to assess their competency or what they have achieved. That's really to answer the question for a lot of homeschoolers who have portfolios, and there are different ways of assessing their academic achievement to give them some flexibility.
My reason for voting against it, if we're explaining this along the way, is the use of non-certified teachers in the assessment process.
Okay. Senator Hennessy?
Did I vote yes already? No? Yes?
I don't know.
Yes.
There's a long space in between. Senator Rishardi
Yes.
and Senator Ward, yes. So the amendment passes 3-2. Any other amendments? Senator Hennessy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I will move Amendment 668 relative to phase out of adequacy education grants, and I'd like to speak to my motion.
You may speak to your motion.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So as the bill is written, I cannot support it because of the impact that it may or may not have on our local school districts. So what this this amendment would do is one piece of what I would like to see looked at for our school districts to make sure that their fear of being harmed by students leaving the system would not materialize. So what this amendment does in the first year after a student accepts an EFA, the first year when the student accepts the EFA, the school would still receive, or the district would still receive 100% of adequacy, remembering that adequacy is based on the prior year's enrollment. In the second year, the school district would receive 50% of the adequacy, and in the third year, 25%. And then I also have another amendment we'll look at that would make sure that the legislature looks at how the EFAs are affecting our public schools.
Okay, let's deal with this amendment first. This is the amendment 668, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Madam Chair, Senator
Yes.
Prentice has her hand raised.
Senator Prentice.
Senator Khan had his hand raised.
Sorry. So Senator Hennessy, Madam Chair, I just want to ask Senator Hennessy a question. So was your motion inexpedient to legislate or move this forward?
Oh, the amendment, move it forward, please.
Okay. You want to move the phasing out forward. I mean, you wrote the amendment, but somehow I caught in there that you're
Oh,
not going to support it.
no, I couldn't support the underlying bill unless it had this amendment in it and a few other pieces that we'll
Okay.
be discussing.
Okay, so I wanted to clarify.
Senator Prentice.
And just so, in general, I just want to make a statement as we go along that I don't support the underlying bill. I believe we're moving in the wrong direction. I can go through my list why. I'm not going to at this point. I'll get to it when we get to the overall bill, but I'm not going to support these amendments on the principle that they have to do with the education freedom accounts. So I just want to make that clear up front. Thank you. I've considered them, I've read them, and I've appreciated the efforts, but I'm gonna settle in here.
Okay,
Sorry, I
Madam-
slammed down my pen.
so we
Madam
have ought to pass on the amendment.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy moved it. We didn't get a second.
Who moved it?
Senator Hennessy. Senator Hennessy
Okay.
moved 668S, but then we didn't get a second.
I'll
Second.
second it.
Great.
So we have ought to pass on amendment 668S. Senator Rishardi,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
No,
Senator Khan,
No,
Senator Ward, yes. So that's 3-2 on the amendment. Any further amendments? Senator Hennessy?
Thank you, Madam Chair. My second of three would be 2021-0656S, and I move that ought to pass, and I'd like to speak to it after we get a second.
A
Got
second.
696,
656.
656. Okay, go ahead.
Thank you. The amendment would beef up the fiscal and financial and audit controls of the bill, the underlying bill. Ensures and financial controls by encouraging scholarships or organizations to purchase education expenses directly whenever possible, and when not possible, to pre-approve expenses for families. However, no money would be dispersed without a receipt, providing tight control over EFA dollars and preventing any allegations of misuse by participating families. So I heard a lot from, I've received a few emails that people were worried that some families, particularly those homeschool families, would see this as an opportunity for fraud. And what this amendment does is to help ensure that the oversight is in place and that the disbursement of dollars is tighter controlled.
Could Ava put this up on the screen?
Absolutely.
I'm afraid that this one, what you just read, I don't see it.
Working on it for you. Let's see. 656S.
It also fixes a typo in lines 25 through 27. And then corrects something in lines 20 through 21.
Senator Prentice?
Thank you, Senator Ward. I just wanted to say that this was an area in terms of accountability that I heard from a lot of people on
Mhm.
Senate Bill 130 more. I used to be able to answer all my emails. Now it's harder because of Senate Bill 130, and that's okay. But this is, I think that this work and this effort is taking it in the right direction and answers concerns that some constituents who are in favor of this raise. It's still, for me, it's just the underlying of issue, saying anything moving towards education, freedom accounts is not where I want to go, but I do want to appreciate the work that's been done in response to constituents. Thank you.
Well, sometimes amendments are very good and, sets the record straight or promote something, but you still don't have to vote positively for the underlying bill. So
Agreed. I just want to appreciate the work of my colleagues.
Yeah.
Good, thanks.
Senator Khan, are you all right with have you looked at it?
I have, and I think there are a lot of words here that are repeated from the bill, so it's hard to sift out. I think it can be as it is, but this is there are a couple of things here that I can see are different, but we put a lot of words here to and just for instance, number 15 and 16 are exactly the same, I think. They are exactly the same. And
You talking about the amendment?
yeah, what's in the amendment, what's on line 20 and 21 of the amendment is different, and there's and what's in line 7 and 8, I guess, is different. But at any rate, there are a lot of lines here for stuff that's unchanged. It can be as it is. I just
Too wordy?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay,
It's redundant.
okay,
Leave it at that.
redundant, okay. Anybody else needs to look at the amendment some more before we can vote on it? I guess we're all set. I have a motion of ought to pass, right, Ava?
Yep, we
In a
have
second, in a second. Okay. So Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
No.
Senator Prentice,
You're
Did-
muted.
muted.
Yeah. No.
Okay.
Thank you.
Senator Rishardi,
Yes.
Senator Ward votes yes. So that's 3-2 on the amendment. Any further amendments? Senator Rishardi, you said you had another one?
Yes, my hand is up. Maybe you can't see it. Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would like to offer amendment 2021-0651S. And I would like to speak to my amendment.
You may.
Do we have a second? I'm sorry to interrupt. It was moved by Senator Rishardi, seconded by Senator Hennessy. Great.
Thank you. The amendment limits participating in EFAs to families earning up to 300% of the federal poverty line, roughly 40% of New Hampshire families. This would ensure that EFA funds are targeted to the families most in need of financial support in order to meaningfully exercise school choice at the 2021 federal poverty level. So, for example, a single parent with one child would be eligible with an income of $52,260. A family of four would qualify at an income of $79,500. 300% of federal poverty is at the same threshold as New Hampshire's education tax credit program. Our scholarship organizers have been confirming income eligibility for this program for years. So we know that they are capable of doing this well. Any family currently eligible for a tax credit scholarship would now be eligible for an education freedom account. Well, I would love to have every state dollar follow every child to find the best path for their education. I understand that some people are hesitant about the size and scope of this program. They want some assurance that our resources go to the families who really need it. So while a more wealthy family already have school choice at $4,600 per year, can bring these choices within the reach of low and middle income families. Our public schools are great for most of our students, but no school is still the perfect fit for every student. We need to open up paths for students who need them, but can't afford them. I want more than anything for our public schools to be the best they can possibly be, but not all children thrive in the same environment. And our children and their education has to be the top priority. That has to be the most important thing that we are thinking about. So I ask for your support for this amendment to target EFAs to the families that truly need them most. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Rishardi. So we have the amendment has been. Do we have ought to pass on it, or do we have something on it? Did somebody make a motion, Ava?
So Senator Rishardi moved it, Senator Hennessy seconded it. And now we can call the roll unless there's discussion, which Senator Prentice and Senator Khan have their hand raised.
Okay. Senator Prentice?
You're muted, Senator Prentice.
This is not my day for the mute button. I have a barky dog at home today. So I am going to take back my initial statement on just this one amendment and support Senator Rishardi's amendment, because I do believe that, she's addressing that this is direct. I heard what you said. I read this and I appreciate what you're trying to do. I still don't agree with the overall bill, but this is one area where on principle, I want to take a stand for those families. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Prentice. Anybody else? Senator Khan.
So a question first for Senator Ricciardi. Do we have some fiscal sense of what this is doing? I mean, we knew that the the underlying bill had a cost that I could calculate could exceed $100 million. By putting this kind of income limit on who qualifies for the grant, does this get us anywhere close to what the Commissioner of Education described for us? Or I just don't, I don't know what to turn to say back to the folks that said this is a major diversion of public funds away from public schools. Can you help us with any kind of fiscal analysis on it?
Senator Hennessy, do you have an idea about I have seen a couple of fiscal analysis, but I don't have them here right in front of me.
I don't think that we have the fiscal analysis on any of these amendments yet. I think that we'll have to discuss that when it comes to finance.
Madam Chair, Senator Ricciardi
Yes.
has her hand.
Yes, Senator Ricciardi.
Senator Khan, thank you for the question. And I really, just for clarification purposes, this SB 130 is not the demise of public schools, quite the contrary. It's here to help the people who are not getting what they need. Most people are going to stay right where they are. They like their public schools. This is just an opportunity for someone who's in a school that they are not getting the education that they need, and they can move and thrive and not fall through the cracks. I've had many examples from parents in different towns in my district that had to move their children for very valid reasons, be it being bullied or they just were not thriving. And I will give an example of a student where, quite frankly, they are transgender and they would have fallen through the cracks in their current hometown school. They moved to a charter school and they're thriving. This SB 130 for me is an opportunity to just give all children what they need. And at the same time, simultaneously, my commitment is to make the public schools the best they can be. This is to make things better. This is not to make things worse. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ricciardi. Senator Prentice.
Thank you, Senator Ward. Senator Ricciardi, I appreciate your statement. I'm going to just respectfully push back with my perspective on this. Is that, I mean, just a little while ago, we talked about, a bill to, based on the New Hampshire School Funding Commission that was, working towards bringing about adequate, fair, equal education funding in New Hampshire. And there's problems with that bill that we wanted to work on to try to do this, and that we're not successful at this point. If our public education funding mechanism was working for all New Hampshire communities fairly, then I could see a place. Well, number one, I would like to think that with that kind of funding, that schools could address those gaps that you've raised, because they can't right now, especially in some of the smaller communities, because they don't have the resources, and it falls on the property taxpayers in some of our poorest communities to make up that difference. I'm just saying something we already know. I would rather fix the bottom line and get our public education system thriving. And then if we need to make adjustments after that, that looked, I'm not in support of a voucher program, but I am in support of, meeting the needs of all of our students. The problem is, in general, we're not meeting the needs across the state right now. And so I think I value what you have to say. I just wanted to let you know that that's where I'm coming from. So thank you.
Thank you, Senator Prentice. Any other?
I would like to address the amendment one more time. So
Yes.
I think having some fiscal analysis on this would be valuable. Number one, and we even could receive that on the floor, but I think the public ought to know that before the Senate passes this. The second thing is that, Senator Ricciardi, I appreciate the experience that you related. I'm glad that it was a charter school, a public charter school that was successful in addressing the needs of that child. And I'd point out that during this legislative session, we're going to need to consider the growth of charter schools. We've accepted a grant, and I assume that we will continue to accept those federal funds that will double the number of slots that we have for charter school enrollment in the state. We currently spend $44,000 to support 4,000 seats, places for students in public charter schools, $44 million. The goal of that grant is to double the number of enrollment in public charter schools through expansion of existing ones, 12, and the addition of 20 more. That, by simple math, puts an additional $44 million of public tax burden on the state of New Hampshire. So I'm glad the charter schools are working. I just point out we're spending a lot of money to make them work and make them available. However we limit this, I don't think that this kind of additional obligation is necessary.
Okay, thank you, Senator Khan.
Where's the phone?
Are we ready to move on the amendment? This is amendment 0651. And do we have a motion and a second on that one?
We do.
Okay. Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
Senator Ward, yes. So that's 5-0 on that one. Any further amendments? Senator Hennessy,
Thank you, Madam Chair. I move amendment 696S. And I'd like to speak to that amendment after everyone gets it pulled up.
you may.
And do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Super.
Okay. Can I?
Go ahead, Senator
Okay, thank you.
Hennessy.
Sorry. So this amendment would add a legislative oversight committee that would have two reporting periods. The first is in November of 22 and the second in November of 23. And the reason I wanted this in here is I want to make sure if the EFAs are set up that the legislature in a bipartisan fashion, which the amendment sets out, would look at the EFA accounts and make sure that they are not negatively impacting our public schools. And if they are, propose legislation to fix that. And that is my intent on this. And that's it. Thank you.
Does everybody have a copy of the amendment?
Yeah.
696. Any discussion? Senator Khan.
What's on line 10, is it the intent to name 2 of these 3 from the House? I don't,
Oh, that's a good catch, Senator Khan. No, it's an intent to name 3. No, I think it's, I think it would be up to the Speaker of the House who they would name. It's just that one has to be from the majority and one has to be from the minority. So
Right.
if they want to appoint an independent as the third party, they can do that. Or the minority or the majority.
I think you might want to add the words "at least."
For where?
I think it's clear. It's one of whom shall be and one of whom shall be.
Right.
So shall's in there.
I guess so. Clearer if the 3 members of the House appointed by the Speaker, is that what the intent is?
3 members of the House who are all appointed by the Speaker, one of whom shall be from the majority and one of whom shall be from the minority party. And I think it says that.
Mhm.
It does. Could be linked a little differently, but I see where the commas are.
Any other discussion? Senator Prentice.
Thank you, Senator Ward. And so I'm gonna support this even. So again, I don't support the underlying bill and I didn't, and I have changed my mind on Senator Ricciardi's amendment and I'm gonna support Senator Hennessy's here because of its efforts to bring about the kind of transparency, accountability, and looking at what actually happens with the funding in the public, between the public schools and this program and the education freedom accounts. So because of that, and I think it's a smart way to approach it, I appreciate the Senator Hennessy, so I am gonna support this and take back my initial, I will support none of this. I'm going to, I've learned my lesson, but still the underlying premise is
Right.
where I stand. Thank you.
Right. Thank you, Senator Prentice. Any other comments, discussion? Okay, we have moved us. You have another question?
Well, just to make sure that we've got it right, that the report, the final reports in 23, it just doesn't say that the committee would terminate at that point
Yeah.
in after line 26.
Yep.
But if that doesn't,
So I'm not
well,
sure what, Madam Chair, I'm not sure what the normal, and maybe Ava could help with this. If a committee submits its final report, what would the termination language be for the committee?
That's a good question. Not an Ava question. I think it varies depending on the commission. I mean, certain commissions have certain termination dates. I would not be the best person to ask. I can confidently say that. That might be a good OLS question.
Is there anybody on the line that could answer for that for us? So we can make it a committee amendment?
won't be a unanimous vote. So if you want to do something on the floor.
Let me just take a peek here.
Can you say that again, Senator Khan? What, I just missed that last.
Just,
We're talking about a committee amendment.
no, when this,
I'm going to hop off and ask.
if there are any kind of changes that are needed to, end dates or language tweaks, or
Yeah, okay.
if we make any really great points at closing comments on this that anybody wants to pick up, then they, who knows, there might be floor amendments.
So your impression is that this is a sort of a temporary committee that's going to give its final report in 2023?
That was my intent. Yes, Madam Chair.
Okay, okay.
Senator Ward,
Madam Chair, Grant has his hand raised, so I'm going to bring him in. And I'm so sorry, Senator Ricciardi, to interrupt.
Good morning, Senators. Grant Bossy, Majority Policy Director for the New Hampshire Senate. I am alone at my home in Lee, New Hampshire. Senator Hennessy asked me to have this drafted through OLS. This was their language. The expectation would be that when a committee has submitted a final report, it is final and it goes away, but it'd be very easy to add a repeal of this section on December 31st, 2023, if you'd want to add that.
Okay. Senator Khan.
Yeah, thank you. So I guess this is losing my support. And the reason why is I don't think the fiscal impact on this in 2023 is going to be known. I think this takes a longer view. It should have a longer view. I think legislative oversight isn't about just the implementation. It's about how this affects out till 2026 or and well beyond. So I think terminating the committee is not a good idea. I think an annual report is what ought to be, and I would support that kind of an amendment. This is.
Do you want to set a,
this-
5-year limit on it?
No.
Or do you want it to go on forever?
I think so long as this is in place, the legislature can always terminate a committee once its useful life is done. But to try to put a boundary on this in 2 years doesn't make sense. And I don't know what would make sense, Madam Chair. So I'd just as soon see an annual report and no repeal date.
Grant, what do you say?
Thank you, Senator. I would just make one point in that often study committees, one of the recommendations they will give to the legislature is to continue their own existence for the very reasons that Senator Khan was alluding to. They said, we have some good data. Here's our final report, but we think we should still meet, and we would like to give you a report next year on how it proceeds. But whether you write that in now or you leave it to the committee, that's a policy decision. That's up to you guys.
And I just offer that this isn't a study committee. This is an oversight committee, as it's titled.
Madam Chair,
Yes.
I am okay with not terminating this oversight committee and allowing for them to terminate themselves if they want to put legislation in, if it's not needed in the future. So I'm happy to change.
I think it would be on line 20. And after that initial report in 22 and an annual report on or before November 30 each year thereafter.
Yeah. So on line 21, instead of final report on or before November 23rd, it would say annual report on or before November 3rd of each year to the general court, including findings, recommendations, and any corrective or technical improvements.
Yeah, each year thereafter.
Just want to
Well,
make
what's
sure
the-
I have that correct. So we are amending this amendment in line
Yes.
21. Instead of on or before November 23rd, we want to say annual report on or before November 23rd,
November 30th
November 30th.
of each year.
Okay.
Sorry, I misspoke about 23.
So Ava, do you want to read that from line 20? So we have the whole thing?
Yeah, I mean, I can pull this amendment up so we're all looking at it if that makes it helpful.
With the change?
Yes. So we're looking at line 21. or excuse me, 20 through 23, that
Mhm.
section. The committee shall submit an interim report on or before November 30th, 2022, and an annual report on or before November 30th, 2023.
I wouldn't include the year. I would just say of each year
Of each-
thereafter.
Right,
Okay.
November 30th, each year thereafter. 2.
thereafter. Okay,
General report, and then keep the remaining part of it.
yes.
I got it.
So everybody's happy? Sort of?
Ready to vote.
Are we all set? Thank you very much, Grant.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Senators.
Thank you.
Okay, we have. Now, what do we do? Do I have to
We
do
need
a committee amendment vote and then a vote on the amendment?
It could just be one vote on these changes on this Senator Hennessy amendment.
Okay. So let's vote on 0696. I have a motion on the floor of ought to pass. Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Rishardi,
Yes.
Senator Ward, yes. So that's 5-0. So this amendment with the committee amendment. So do we have any other amendments or discussions or thoughts on 130 before we vote on the underlying bill? Senator Hennessy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have an echo. Do you hear the echo? No?
Nope.
Okay.
Done
I
now.
did it first, but I don't know why.
So I want to thank my colleagues for the amendments they have presented. The underlying bill, as initially presented, I couldn't support. I believe that there should definitely be a means test. Senator Rishardi's amendment. The wealthy of New Hampshire have always had school choice, and they can leave their kids in public education if the public school is meeting their child's needs, or they can move them wherever they want. But who ends up hurting the most are the people without the means to choose their children's education. And so I completely support the 300% of the federal poverty level and below as the cap. I thought the oversight committee was a necessary addition, just so that the legislature can report out to itself and examine how, if at all, the EFAs are affecting our public schools. I also did not want to have the public schools affected financially. If the Legislative Oversight Committee finds that there are going to be big holes in any of our school funding for any of our districts, the committee would have time to examine that before the phase out of the financial assistance is over. And so I thought that was an important addition, along with the accountability additions of not allowing or attempting to not allow any fraud by parents just seeking to gain money from the system somehow. And I think that the other amendment fixes that. So I will be voting in favor of this bill as ought to pass. Thank you.
So do we have a motion on the floor for the bill? Ava?
Ought to pass as amended. Someone wants to move it. It sounds like Senator Hennessy just moved it. So if we want to second that.
I'll second it.
Okay, let's take a roll call.
Oh.
Senator Prentice?
I'm sorry, I'd like to speak to this.
Okay, you'd like to speak. Okay, Senator Khan.
Thank you. I'm sorry, this will take a minute or two, but this is an important point that we reach with this bill. New Hampshire provides the least state funding per student of any state in the country. And I believe that this will weaken our funding for struggling community schools even further. Our testimony overwhelmingly suggested that $3,700 or even $5,500 per student won't cover the cost of sending a child who lives near the poverty level to private schools. These amendments fail to address the concerns of special educators that were raised as to which special education section is referenced on page 4, line 25, or if parents waive rights to extended summer year services. The limited savings from each student leaving a school, they're very limited. And there's no fiscal impact on the amendments that were just written yesterday. Page 6, section 17 states very clearly that this shall not exclude religiously based or mission-based policies or practices. I can tell you this is going to lead straight to the United States Supreme Court because they have not ruled on this question. The New Hampshire Constitution, which in Part 2, Article 83 specifically states, provided nonetheless that no money raised by taxation shall ever be granted or applied for the use of the schools of institutions of any religious sect or denomination. Funding EFAs and allowing use of state funds to support religious education, it may have been decided in Utah versus Espinoza in the Supreme Court, but that has not been tested in New Hampshire. We are ignoring the advice of multiple church leaders who are skeptical of government handouts and infringement on their practices, citing separation of church and state. We ignored Commissioner Edelblut's advice that the direction for the administration of this program should come from the legislature. There is no legislature guidance on how to select the scholarship organization, an organization that's likely to earn millions of dollars from the state. No term of agreement, no rules on how they're selected, and if it needs to be an in-state organization. This delegates to the scholarship organization decisions on education service providers, but it does not provide for public input over how education service providers will be approved. There's no guidance to the scholarship organization on whether out-of-state schools will be approved education service providers. In fact, there is no state RSA 541A rulemaking authority over the scholarship organization whatsoever. Not the application process for applying for education freedom account. There's no guidance on the parent promissory agreements, no recusal process for the advisory committee members who have a conflict of interest in appealing hearings for denial. New Hampshire already has a program to support attendance at private schools and homeschooling, and it doesn't cost taxpayers a penny. It's the education tax credit, RSA 77G, which Senator Ricciardi already referred to. It allows parents to apply for spending per child up to $4,800 a year. And guess what it covers? An eligible student may receive a scholarship to attend a non-public school, a public school outside of their school district, the cost of a college or university, an accredited tutor or tutoring facility, distance education program. A home education student may receive a scholarship to cover educational expenses. Eligibility is already pegged at a household equal to or 300% of the federal poverty guidelines. Folks, we already have laws on the books. You want to rename what 77G is about? We can rename it. You want to up the limits on it? Up the limits on it. But this isn't a matter of the quality of the education. This is not a matter of debating the quality of this legislation because it is inadequate. It is not ready to pass. And this is not the will of the people. 3,700 people have offered their opinions on this piece of legislation, and 3,200 of them said that they oppose it. They weren't school employees writing us. I know it because I can go through and I can pick out the people from my county, and I know they are just ordinary New Hampshire voters who care about their public schools and how their state tax dollars are spent. I ask my colleagues on this committee, we should at least re-refer Senate Bill 130. It's not ready for prime time, and I will be voting against this.
Thank you, Senator Khan. Senator Prentice?
Thank you, Senator Ward. Just briefly, because I've already made my general feelings known on this, I just want to say that I believe by moving this forward, that we essentially create two different school systems here in New Hampshire. And we are not in a place where we have managed fairly and equitably the public education system as it is. And we're making a choice, or this vote would be essentially, again, creating two different systems, moving public dollars to private and religious education. We have to solve the underlying problem, which we've had an opportunity to do. They're choosing right now not to do that. I also think that at this time in our history, and at this time in our history in the world, in the country, and in New Hampshire, there are serious unknowns in public education due to the pandemic, funding equity, and we also are seeing, this expansion of charters. The last thing that we need to do now, when all of this turmoil is taking place and all these unknowns are out there, is again move taxpayer dollars to vouchers, away from the public education system, and create two systems. Let's fix one and start there. That's it. Thank you. So
Thank you, Senator Prentice. So we have a motion on the floor of to pass. Are
Madam
you ready
I'm
for
so
a
sorry to interrupt. Senator Ricciardi has her hand raised.
Senator Ricciardi?
I just appreciate everyone's thoughts and comments. I just want to address Senator Khan on a couple of things. The Department of Education will do an RFP request for any proposal, and they will have to apply to DOE to be allowed to even run their program. They've been running the tax credit program since 2013. They have to apply and be reapproved every year. They are only approved by the New Hampshire Department of Revenue. So everything has to be done to the letter of the law. They are a 4-star charity navigator, and all their reports are public and accounted for. So I did want to address that piece, but I also just wanted to say that I was not for the original amendment because I did listen to constituents, all constituents, the ones for SB 130 and the ones not. So working really diligently to come up with amendments that could satisfy everyone. And I would never, ever do something that would put the public schools in harm's way. This is about our children. And I truly believe that in passing this bill, you will be pleasantly surprised how little it will impact the finances of public education, but how our children who need to thrive will. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Ricciardi. Any other comments before we take a vote? Okay, so we have a motion on the floor. We have a motion and we have a second. Senator Khan?
No.
Senator Prentice?
Nope.
Senator Ricciardi?
Yes.
Senator Hennessy?
Yes.
Senator Ward votes yes. That's 3-2. And I will take it out. Are we all done, Ava, except for coming out of executive session?
Yes, and I think Senator Hennessy is ready to offer that motion.
Okay. Senator Hennessy?
I'll move that we move out of executive session, Madam Chair.
Senator Prentice seconds it. All those in favor, huh? Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Prentice,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
and Senator Ward votes yes. So we're out of executive session. Do I have to close the hearing? Do I have to vote on closing the hearing?
We can adjourn. Vote to adjourn.
Okay, we're going to adjourn. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Yes.
Motion adjourned.
It was
Ricciardi and Prentice, okay. Great. Senator Hennessy,
Yes.
Senator Khan,
Yes.
Senator Ricciardi,
Yes.
Senator Prentice, and
Yes.
Senator Ward votes to adjourn. Thank you all very much, and we are finished in time for this Zoom to be used by Transportation Committee. Thank you all very much.
See you there.